So first, I would really like to thank all of you to arrive today. Chili is here in Israel, but Daniel arrived here. Behind the scenes on our booth, you can meet everyone on the team. So people around the world are here just to talk with you. And before we begin, I would like to ask you, Chili, a simple question. Can you tell me a bit about your background and your automation journey?
Sure. Is this working? Yes, so thank you very much for inviting me. This has been a very, very interesting Kenneth up till now. My background as a CIO for the last 20-odd years has been quite varied. But for many of those years, I was working in the retail sphere. And my last job before making Aliyah 6 years ago was working as Chief Digital and Information Officer for Steinhoff UK Retail, which included a number of retail brands. I also ran the e-commerce business for them, which was about £100 million ARR business. Interestingly, at the time, we did a lot of automation, but it was all kind of black box stuff. The stuff that you don't really understand, only the techies understand, and it's not stuff that the business users would use. For the last 6 years, until last week, I was the CIO at AppsFlyer, a high-tech company. When I started, we started looking a lot at automation. And I guess that's what I'm here to speak about now, is kind of retrofitting what it would be to use the level of automation that we did within high-tech and actually retrofit that into e-commerce and how it can help e-commerce companies. Like I said, I've been the CIO of AppsFlyer for the last 6 years, and I'm now doing CIO advisory work as an independent, helping people to get onto the AI transformation.
Chili, so how has your approach to automation evolved over the years?
Well, it's evolved hugely together with the industry and the way the technology has gone. So when I arrived at AppsFlyer, we had a small automation team. It was the time of COVID. We were playing with Make at the time, trying to understand. We had 1 or 2 scenarios going. I remember there was a scenario where someone would come into the office during COVID, okay, and we had to say where they'd be working to make sure that that they weren't ill or anything like that. So they'd take their temperature, they'd come through the security system. There would be like the office space as to where they were working, etc. And we used Make to kind of track that and send a form to their manager to say they were working during COVID, and then they would kind of sign it on Slack, and it would go back to the manager, etc. And it kind of all looked like magic, but it was all developed by our kind of Make engineers in-house. Over the years, that became onboarding systems, offboarding systems. That became product systems. That became the way that we spoke to Salesforce, the way that we moved information in and out of the ERP. And as we moved on, it wasn't just the experts that were building these automations and these scenarios, which we call scenarios on Make. It was actually the people on the ground. So a marketing person wanted a scenario for their marketing solutions. They wanted a scenario for, let's say, SEO or something like that. They would build it themselves. So we created this Make Guild of tens of people and eventually over 100 people that were developing their own Make scenarios within the organization. And then as AI started coming in, and we started with Claude and OpenAI, etc., and linking that to Make and linking that to the automation systems, all of a sudden, we had this huge automation guild that was building automations. Today, we have 750 scenarios that are running on a daily basis, each one replacing a process that would have been manual. Now, you say, okay, that's a high-tech company, people are very technical. Actually, it's not. It's a high-tech company, but the people doing it are in the marketing, CS, finance. These are not highly technical people. And it's doable, and it's very impactful.
So now, looking back at the retail and the e-commerce experience that you have, what lessons from your experience at AppsFlyer are most relevant today?
Well, I think that there are so many processes that are done by a retailer, by e-commerce. You mentioned it, Asaf, in your intro. Every time someone clicks on a buy button, think of how many processes are happening in the background. Think of how many processes happen before that, when you're doing your range planning, when you're comparing your pricing to other competitors, when you're doing your plan for the year. We spoke about that earlier. The last speaker was speaking about July being the time to plan. And all of these things are heavily, manually intensive work. And all of that, not all of it, but a lot of it can be automated. And therefore, the kind of questions we need to ask ourselves now, and the lesson I've got for e-commerce, is the question you ask yourself is how much, it's not about trying to replace all your systems. You're not going to replace your ERP, your CRM, not for a very long time. But how much of the manual work that sits around the main systems, how much of that manual work can be much more efficient by automating? And if your gut feel is that it's a lot of it, then I think my approach is trust your instinct and start building automations.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chili. Daniel, for you, maybe a short introduction about yourself and about Make. What is it?
Okay, so I guess I'm going to start with myself. Oh. Now? Working? Okay. So I'm going to start with myself. I started with Make about 9 years ago, and my story is nowhere exciting as Chili's, unfortunately. In my previous job, I had to automate something around paid ads, like lead ingestions and things like that, and I just coincidentally found Integromat back then. I do wonder how many Integromat/Make users we have in the room. Anyone? Hands up? Yeah, you see, like everyone who comes to our booth is already a Make user, so frankly, I'm not sure what we are even doing here, especially in Israel. But anyway, so I found Integromat, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And I became addicted in 2 days. And it ended up me leaving the job, and I was joining Make. Back then it was called Integromat. So right now I've been with the company for 5 years. And my job is what you said, basically. I try to make sure that our customers achieve their AI and automation goals. Now, speaking of Make, you can see behind me on the slide that it's a visual orchestration platform that allows you to connect in a plug-and-play way components of your processes that form eventually a workflow or a standard process which is triggered and fully automated. Now, nowadays, this can be done by you, it can be done by our partners like Asaf, or it can be done with our AI assistant. So, the scope is getting wider and wider how to achieve that.
Thank you. So, what are the most common automation challenges companies are trying to solve today from what you are seeing?
Yeah, look, especially when talking about the Israeli market, and you guys are very smart, you typically know what to automate already. No one has to tell you that much, but what I see the struggle is how to basically take AI and standard deterministic automations and how to make sense out of it, right? Many times, the discussion is just AI. Everyone needs to build AI, but the reality is that you don't always need AI for very simple things. You should be very cautious about how you use AI and how you use standard deterministic automation. So I think the discussion right now is basically to guide users to the right buckets, right? Is this an AI problem, or is this a standard deterministic automation problem? And find a match, right? So you have the problems, you have the use cases, but solving them in a right way that is also cost efficient, that's another story.
And talking about e-commerce specifically, what kind of use cases are you seeing that are most frequent?
So typically it's gonna do something with everything that happens after they click your magic button, right? So order management, procurement, shipping notifications, processes around finance, syncing your store with ERP solutions, providing customer service. Pretty much every department that you have, Make can help, most of the time there. Now, when we focus on e-commerce businesses in Israel alone, we will have definitely hundreds of existing customers, but probably low thousands. Now,
Yep.
Yeah, so that was like a generic intro, but I wanted to also add something very specific that I guess most of you will relate to. So let's say you run paid ads, right? Like you spend money to make money, right? And everyone is spending on Google, Meta, probably TikTok these days, maybe LinkedIn, you name the big five, right? And if you start capturing orders and maybe they take long time to convert and the conversion doesn't always happen online, that can be captured with pixels, you eventually need to deliver that event back to Meta so it knows what good means for you, or back to Google, right? And when you send these conversion events back, you can do it in the old traditional way by coding an API connection and all this dev work to be done, or you can do it with Make in a drag and drop fashion, right? And there's a big difference in time, in manageability, observability, etc. So typically all the e-com businesses who run ads, they will use Make to feed conversion events back to the big five, right? And the gains can be somewhere between like low single percentage digits to low double digits. That's typically what Meta or Google publishes as the upside in the ROI, meaning more revenue or lower cost or both.
Definitely. Okay, so Chile, on AppsFlyer, you're doing a lot of AI exploration, right? And my question is, how have you used AI internally, AI agents within AppsFlyer?
Right, so we've kind of gone on that journey of make and automation, and then when AI came in, we were the first major organization to take an open AI license for everyone in the team, in the company, for people to start using, understanding, and really learning. And I think that's very important, that people understand the power of it, even if from day one they're not necessarily adding value. And then we started looking at what were the impactful use cases that we could build. So we kind of had a bottom-up approach, which was let everyone use, let everyone play. We called it the chaos approach, and let everyone just use AI as much as they can. And the top-down approach was to say, what are the impactful use cases that we could build, the problems that we're trying to solve. And in AI, it's just supercharged technology. It isn't any different to the principles that we've had for years, which is to enable technology by saying, what are the problems that you are trying to fix, and bring in the technology to fix them. So we put in all kinds of agents around know your customer, around financial agents, around procurement, etc., etc. And I think that's where we came from as a team. Some worked, some didn't. Some have been majorly impactful, some haven't. But our approach has been to be very much to follow our instincts in terms of the problems we're trying to solve and where we think that AI and automation can solve those problems.
Thank you for that. Okay, so there is a constant struggle or concern about the future and where AI is going and what it is doing, Claude and all this new edge. So many organizations are experimenting with AI and vibe coding and tools like Claude. So Daniel, how do you see platforms like Make complementing these technologies?
Yeah, look, so I might be sounding a bit strange right now, but look, Claude is here to stay, right? Like, it's not gonna go anywhere. It's only gonna get better and better. And we at Make, we understand that very well. In fact, we are even internally encouraged to use Claude, all right? But as Make, as a company, we try to complement it. We don't try to compete with it. You know, we want to be the orchestration layer for AI automations that brings more visibility, etc. Because what is happening is that when you onboard entire company to Claude and everyone suddenly starts using Cowork, they will build quickly, and they will build something that works, but typically it's going to run locally on their machines. So every single person who builds something has a piece of code running on their machine, and you as company admin or IT manager, you can't really tell what is happening, right? And the more people you throw into the mix, the more messy it gets. With Make, though, you can introduce some guardrails, right? So it's no longer about just building quickly, which you can also build in Make, but Make brings additional layers to the automation world, like logging, observability, dependency management, and all these things that admins or IT managers or CIOs like Chili typically look for, right? So this is where our value is. This is how we can be complementary to Claude. Now, we don't try to even make from the outside world. We want to make it very democratic, so to speak. So even for Claude, we introduced make skills. So you can get make skills for Claude to build scenarios through Claude. You can also use make scenarios as MCP server, so you can create or select a subset of scenarios and expose them as typically as functions that can be used across your organization. So again, we try to complement it. We don't necessarily try to go head to head with Claude.
Saying as someone who's not a developer myself, I've used those make skills in Claude. It makes it so much easier, and that's what I'm talking about. It's gone from black box to easy for everyone to use, and I really do encourage people trying it.
Okay, so the last question, and I'll ask it for both of you. The first one, Chili, please. What advice would you give to companies that are just starting their automation journey today?
So I would say, don't try to do everything. Prioritize what is most important to you. Where can you become more efficient? Where can you become more successful? Prioritize it. Decide what you're going to go for. Don't try to be too clever with measuring it, because it's very, very difficult at this stage to measure success around AI. Trust your instincts. If you look at a process and you think that process could be automated, and you think that you could get a serious impact out of automating that process, just go for it. The technology is there. It's much easier to use than it's ever been before. And I would say that, so it's prioritize, trust your instinct, and go for it.
Daniel?
Yeah, I would say, try to focus on real pain points. Don't use AI just for the sake of using it because someone told you, right? Try to find a problem which may not even be solvable with AI. It can be simple workflow, see how it goes, understand edge cases, etc. And once you get into the basics of building standard workflows, you can slowly migrate to AI. And last point is that don't forget about your data. If the data is messy, then AI is not going to fix it. Automation is not going to fix it. You have to have the data in order. Otherwise, it will be garbage in, garbage out. It's like standard problem. So.
Okay, so I want to thank you both, and I want to invite the crowd to come to our booth. Special thank you for SE, for the organization here, and special thank you for the guys from Make that arrived here to Israel in this occasion and situation. You're most welcome to scan the barcode behind me, and you would get a form to submit, and once filled, you would get a free Make instance to play with for a free month. So whoever wants to try on, go ahead, and you're welcome to come to our booth. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.